And it takes us to that 2016 video that, yes, the prosecution looped and kept playing throughout the trial, apparently. And they're doing it for a reason. Because let me tell you, I don't understand why people say they don't quite see the government proving, I guess, one of the most important elements of RICO, which is the coercion part and the force part, when you've been seeing it the entire time if you saw the hotel video. And let me tell you why. Y'all, this Cassie testimony was heartbreaking, beyond heartbreaking. There's no words for what she endured. I mean, it's to the point that they should be happy I'm not on the jury, because honestly, I wouldn't give a damn about the elements. It would just be Diddy can't see no kind of light of day, in my opinion. Now, I have to be clear. He's innocent until proven guilty. He has pleaded not guilty to all of the charges that he's currently facing. And look, Cassie just went through her direct, and let me say bravo to the prosecution. They did a heck of a job. They laid down the groundwork, and to me, have made a strong case for all the charges. But Diddy and the defense will have their cross-examination, and it will probably last all day, maybe all the way until Friday. And we know they're going to come hard on Cassie because she is the case, at least as far as we know for now. But here's the thing. We are only on day 3 of this case, and it's going to be an 8-week case. So the prosecution is about to slam Diddy. I mean, for them to start with Cassie, you know, that could be for a variety of reasons. She's pregnant. In fact, she's about to be due the first week of June. Shout out to her unborn child. Shout out to the June babies. I'm a June baby. Gemini. But God bless Cassie. I mean, I can't even talk about all the things that she dealt with, but because it's vile, it's demonic, diabolical. The things that she dealt with as a young woman. I mean, she met Diddy at 19 years old. And for anyone who said, well, yeah, she's a grown woman at 19, you know what a 19-year-old is and how, yeah, they're technically grown on paper, but mentally, she wasn't a grown woman. Not the kind of grown woman that could handle a man like Diddy, who was 17 years older than her. So he was in his 30s and she was 19. Now, they didn't start dating, apparently, until she was about 2021. And the way that happened was he invited her to Miami for what she thought was going to be a party. Because here's the thing. She met him at 19 because she was signed to him as an artist. She was expecting to do music. And we all know Cassie's first song was a major hit, produced by Ryan Leslie, who she allegedly dated, super producer for Bad Boy. So he brought her to Bad Boy. And she signed a 10-album deal, which, by the way, artists out there never do that. Never sign a 10-album deal. That means you're pretty much going to be locked in to whatever label pretty much for the rest of your career. But the point is, she worked for Diddy. You know, because folks want to say, you know, she was his girlfriend, sure, but she also worked for him. So, and that's very important. But that's how they met. That's why they met. That's why she was even in his atmosphere. But they started dating. She went to Miami thinking it was for a party because she worked for him. Wasn't really for a party. He ended up kissing her and doing things with her that she wasn't used to. eventually they became a full out couple. But here's the thing. I looking at everything that Diddy has done, allegedly, to Cassie. He denies all claims. It takes me back, because I'm a part of the generation that grew up with Diddy and admired Diddy. Admired the careers he built, the music he curated, I'll say, because, there's a debate whether he really produced, but we'll say he produced these songs. I mean, he's an icon in this industry. Can't deny that. And we love the music. We dance to the music. He has classic music. So this makes me sad to know that, yes, this is the persona. This is who we admired, the persona, but we didn't know the man. And so to be introduced to him in this way as the man that he is, it's heartbreaking. And I agree with Albie Shore with the recent interview he did where he's like, this is not something that we should be celebrating. The only thing what should be happening is us celebrating the great music that we all contributed to. But instead, he's in prison. So this is not a celebration. But I'm mentioning my generation and how we grew up with Diddy, but we also grew up with Tupac and Biggie. And there's just been a lot of tragedy around Diddy. He lost his artist Biggie because of the so-called West Coast, East Coast rivalry, which was never real. It was really just a serious beef between Biggie and Tupac. But I just now that I see who or hear who he allegedly is from the words of Cassie and others that are to come, I'm taken back to an interview that Tupac did with Vibe, where he was asked, do you think that Puffy, because he called himself Puffy at the time, this was around 96, Tupac had just been released from jail for what he said a crime he didn't commit. And at one point he was friends with Biggie. He loved Biggie. But he felt betrayed by Biggie and Puffy, but particularly Puffy. And the interviewer asked him, do you think Puffy had anything to do with your pew-pew? I can't say certain words on YouTube. But how you got pew-pewed I believe in 95 when he went to that studio. And he said, I don't want to slander them like they're slandering me, but I believe so because I got proof. And I'm sorry. I wouldn't be surprised if how Tupac felt was real after hearing the stories from Cassie, because she wasn't the only one violated according to her. He threatened other people according to her. Again, I have to say, he's innocent until proven guilty. He has pled not guilty, and he denies all these claims. But according to Cassie and her testimony, he obviously committed DV on her. She said attacked some of his staff. She said, obviously, or that he attacked men that she may have started to date because they, even though they were a couple, they were engaged in these FOs. She became like an object to him. He had girlfriends. She had boyfriends. It was a very toxic relationship, but it was beyond toxic, really. And I don't even know if I would call it a relationship. But the point is, it was so toxic that, yeah, she may have had some other boyfriends. And one of those boyfriends was Kid Cudi, and he found out about it and allegedly threatened Kid Cudi. So he's not above that, is my point. And this relationship involved illegal substances that Cassie said she was addicted to all the way up until 2022 or 2023. She is broken because of this relationship. I mean, we're talking FOs weekly, where she would be told or directed allegedly by Diddy to hire escorts. And that's key to the charges. So he would direct her to hire escorts. They would use Craigslist and other websites to find these escorts. And the FOs would be often 2 sessions. One session would be Cassie would have to be with an escort. Diddy would watch. And then the second session would be Cassie with Diddy. And she said, the prosecution asked her, was there anything that you liked about these FOs? She said the only thing was I could maybe have some time with Diddy. Because again, she loved this man, even though he did not love her. If these stories are true. This is not love. But in her mind, in her impressionable mind, in her broken mind, she thought it was love, or she felt love. And she said this was really the only time that we would have together. How tragic is that? You being treated as an object, you somehow found some light in that. But ultimately, let's be clear, she did not enjoy these FOs. She did not want to do these FOs, and she has tried to tell Diddy she didn't want to do these FOs. These FOs that sometimes would last days. There was an FO that lasted 4 days. She said she did hundreds of FOs with him. Hundreds. Dozens, if not hundreds of men. Her having to satisfy them. She got sores in her mouth. She got certain UTIs. She had people released in her mouth to the point that she started choking. This is what she dealt with, and it takes us to that 2016 video that, yes, the prosecution looped and kept playing throughout the trial, apparently. And they're doing it for a reason, because let me tell you, I don't understand why people say they don't quite see the government proving, I guess, one of the most important elements of RICO, which is the coercion part and the force part, when you've been seeing it the entire time if you saw the hotel video. And let me tell you why. According to Cassie, and this is what we learned from this case, because I'll be real, with the hotel video, I thought they were just in the hotel together, doing what they do as a couple, and then she just wanted to leave when I first saw the hotel video. But we learned from this case that there was another man in there, meaning this was an FO situation. And that shouldn't be surprising, because she said they did it weekly. She said it felt like a job. And that's key too. Felt like a job. I mean, Cassie knew what she was doing on that stand. She knew the right words to say. And that was a great term to use. Because even though she had this 10-album deal, she only came out with 1 album. And she said she wrote all these songs, but none of them were ever released. So it begs the question, was she signed to be an artist, or was she signed to be a worker? To be trafficked? Is that why she was really signed? Because an FO happened at this hotel, according to Cassie, and she wanted to leave. She didn't want to do it. And as she's leaving, we saw on the hotel video, she gets to the elevator. And this is how you know, like Diddy wants to say that she left because she saw some messages on his phone and was upset about it. But that's not really the energy I saw with her leaving. Because I would think if she was upset, she would be storming out, be ready, be out. Maybe he would be begging for her to come back, whatever. She didn't give off the energy that she was just upset. She gave off the energy like, let me sneak out of here before he finds me. She didn't even have her shoes on. She was putting her shoes on at the elevator. So she's at the elevator. Diddy comes running and immediately attacks her. Takes these bags, which we learned from this trial were her bags. And now TMZ has released a full video. You can go to their page to see it. Those were her bags. And I believe on the stand, she said the phone that he took was her phone. So this is why this is important and why that video is the case. And that's why his side fought so hard to not have that video played. Because when you look at RICO, you have to show an enterprise. You have to show a pattern of certain racketeering behavior, which would be trafficking in this situation, or the transporting of workers. We'll just say that. And then you need to show this coercion, this force. So with this hotel, they're in LA. And there's, if it's an FO situation, there's an escort in the room that was probably hired. So that takes part of the trafficking because it was commercial, 3-letter word. And then we have the force, the coercion. He dragged her back into the hallway. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the force. Why are you missing that? I know people saying, oh, well, all we're seeing is DV. They're just talking about DV. They're talking about DV, people, because DV is a form of force. They're not talking about DV because they should have charged him with DV. They're talking about DV to tell you or to show you that this man was forcing this woman to do something against her will. And you can force people to do things in a variety of ways. And again, one of them is DV. But he was also allegedly blackmailing her because he had footage of her in these FOs and he consistently threatened to release them. And I remember when there was rumors about, or there was actually footage that was released publicly. I remember when that happened years ago. So everything Cassie's saying is seemingly quite real. Again, we're going to hear Diddy's side, and he has pled not guilty. I have to say that. But right now, the prosecution is showing a very, very strong case. The force, the coercion was very clear from that hotel video because it was not just about a domestic dispute. According to Cassie, she was involved in an FO, did not want to be involved in the FO, and he dragged her back. Force. Trafficking. Enterprise because one, what did I say? Yeah, Cassie's his girlfriend, but she also works for him and was hiring escorts at his direction, allegedly, and paying escorts at his direction, allegedly. During the testimony, the prosecution broke it down, little by little, laid the foundation down. The first day was all about just the foundation of their relationship, but they also made some key points. They asked her, where were these FOs happening? Interstate, because she said it happened in New York, LA, Miami, San Diego. Shout out to San Diego, my hometown. Even internationally, Spain. Maybe even in Turks and Caicos. Interstate trafficking. Then they broke down all of the escorts, showed their pictures. She knew their names. And the name of the escort that was at that hotel, Jules. Who else saw Jules? The first witness, Israel Flores. That was when we first learned that there was another man there. And another commentator said the same thing. Oh, I didn't know there was another man there. So Cassie was trying to leave an FO. That's all you need, people. She didn't want to do it. And there's evidence of her not wanting to do it. You just need one time. And he was dragging her, trying to force her back in. But luckily, Israel showed up and she was able to leave, and she left with her bags. Now, some people will ask, well, why did she return to the relationship? She was with him for 10 years. I'm hoping that the prosecution can bring on some experts to answer that question, because that is typical of women who are victims of DV. They said the average woman who is in a DV situation returns to the relationship at least 7 times. But see, Cassie's on a whole other level because this was her boss. He had a lot of access, a lot of money. She feared for her life. So she returned probably more than the average. But she's not alone in that. It's common. And I hope the prosecution brings on an expert to show that. Because who else stayed in a very abusive relationship for years? An entertainer that we all loved, God rest her soul, Tina Turner. She too remained married to Ike Turner, I think close to 20 years. So why are we shaming Cassie for that? This girl is trying to survive. She said at one point she wanted to unalive herself, and that was recent. In 2023, around the time she said she was writing her book, and she said because the prosecution's smart, they started asking her questions that they know the defense is going to try to use against her. So they asked her about her book, her memoir. They asked her, because the defense is going to try to paint her like she's violent, which is laughable. But they're going to try to paint her like she's violent. So they asked her about her little fight that she had. And she explained why that happened. But back to her memoir. She says she wrote it because she wanted Sean, Diddy, to read it. So he knew what he did to her. She says she loved him. And she wanted to just be seen. And they asked her, well, you filed a lawsuit. You asked for $30 million once you sent this book. Why $30 million? She said, was this a random number? A random number that she felt would get his attention. Plus, all the pain and suffering that she endured, which, if she's telling the truth, is a fact. She felt she was owed that money, and I agree, if this is in fact true. So she was open about it. Now, they ended up settling, and we all know that. They settled in 24 hours. And that settlement price was $20 million. But honestly, with the amount of mental anguish that she is still dealing with, she says she has PTSD. She said she's in therapy. I mean, she wanted to unalive herself despite being the mother of 2 children. She has a child on the way. I don't know if 20 million is even enough. What is money gonna do? He took her soul, allegedly. But God bless Cassie. It's too much. And the baby oil, by the way, a lot of folks focused on that. I thought it was crazy that he would have 1,000 bottles of baby oil, but she said it was a weekly sessions that they would have, FO sessions. And they would sometimes use 10 bottles of baby oil per session. 52 weeks out of the year. So yeah, 1,000 bottles could work. In fact, she said there was one point where he wanted to pour all this baby oil in a baby pool so she could dump herself in it because he wanted her glistening. Something's wrong with Diddy if this is true. And I echo what I heard Jennifer Lewis say. He has some demons. that he needs to truly deal with. And I think Cassie ended her testimony saying that. And folks in the courtroom said one of the black jurors, female black jurors, was aghast. Her face was like, but yeah, Cassie said, you know, I think there was a part of her that maybe felt bad for him a little bit because of maybe certain things that she knows about him, whatever he's battling. Because you just don't treat people this way. So the soft side of me, I feel for him on that. He needs to heal from that, but he's still, if this is true, got to be very clear on that. He's innocent until proven guilty. But if this is true, he still needs to be held accountable. You can heal and be held accountable. But like I said, God bless Cassie. There will be other witnesses coming. But she is 8 months pregnant or 8.5 months pregnant. And she's about to face a pretty brutal date with the defense. But you know what? If she's telling the truth, that's all she needs. And I know Diddy's rolling up in there with his Bible, but you know what? He used to carry the Bible with him during his other trial with the nightclub situation. I don't question people's religion and their relationship with God because God loves everybody. But I don't know what that Bible did for his character after the nightclub because we see where we are today. So I don't know how much that is just for show or if that's real. But you know what? Human beings are complex. He could very well have a very deep relationship with God and just may not know how to deal with whatever demons he has. I don't know. Again, assuming this is real, that this is true. He is not denying what he did at the hotel, because how can he? But he clearly is denying that he was involved in RICO or trafficking or the transport of workers. But we shall see what will happen. This case is expected to last 8 weeks. And we are just getting started. I'll catch y'all next time. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm Stacey Brewer, and this is H Blues Word. Peace.